Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad you're joining me. I have some quick and easy cards to show you using some new dies from Spellbinders. They're very easy to put together, but they make a big impact. This is from the Be Bold Color Block collection, and I've worked with dies like these in the past. I'll link to that video at the end of this video. But I have 3 brand new ones that they sent me. This first one says, "Happy Birthday." And it fits a Slimline card. Look at that beautiful die. It measures exactly 8.5 by 3.5. The second set says thank you. And this is a mini Slimline. It measures 3.25 by 6.25. All of the letters to these dies cut out separately. I'll show you that in just a minute. And then the third one is another mini Slimline. This one says, "Congrats, yay!" exclamation mark. So we're going to put together 3 cards using these dies, and I have a lot of tips and tricks for you for how to use them. So let's get started with the first card. I went ahead and die cut everything. I used some saffron cardstock for the birthday sentiment. I'm going to add some texture to these letters using an embossing folder from Spellbinders. This is just called Striped Slimline. I'll pull this out and I'm going to place all of the letters inside this folder. They fit perfectly, and it's just going to create some horizontal lines across these letters. I'm going to hold it tight and run it through my Platinum 6. And here they are all ready to go. It's kind of hard to see the stripes and the texture on the camera, but I'm going to add some ink over these and it really brings out the texture. These dies are great if you want to make up a bunch of masculine birthday cards as well. I'm sorry about the sun streak that you see on my work mat. In the afternoon, the sun starts coming through my window there, and I forgot to pull the blinds. I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending with some Distress Oxide inks. This first one I'm using is Spiced Marmalade, and I'm going to put it at the bottom of the letters. I wanted to deepen this color just a little bit. I'm going to pull out some Candied Apple and put it at the bottom, and then I'll extend the Spiced Marmalade up the letter. It just adds a lot of fun interest to these letters. I'll do this with all of them. It's so bold and bright. This card turns out to be really fun. The texture or the lines on these letters really start showing through now that I have the Distress Oxide ink on them. I'm going to put some foam strips on the backs of all of these letters so that I can pop them up off of my card panel. And I'm going to attach them to a piece of graphite gray cardstock. This really helps the letters to pop. I like to put the first letter and the last letter on first. And this is to make sure that I get all of the letters where they are supposed to be, and they don't start running off the edge of the paper, because they should fit perfectly within an 8.5 by 3.5 space of paper. So now I can start attaching the center letters. And you have to make sure that they're right side up because they do go down a certain way, like with the I. I had some little curves to it that curve around the B. And the T kind of curves at the top of the R. These cards are really easy to put together, however, and really fast. Now for the D. And then the last letter, and it should just fit perfectly between the D and the Y. There we go. So I cut out the happy with some poppy red cardstock. I'm using the first few colors of the rainbow on this card. And I really like the font of that happy die. I'm going to pull out an old card kit stamp set from Spellbinders, and in it, it had a birthday hat and a balloon and some fun birthday sentiments. There's a lot of space on this card, so there's plenty of room for this. So the sentiment I'm putting down says, happiest wishes on your birthday. Then I'm going to add a little balloon above this. Just these little touches that sure make this card fun. Now I can attach it to my white card base. And this card base is exactly 8.5 by 3.5. I'm going to add a few gems, and I believe these are the crystal clear gems that I'm using. I'll just put a few around the sentiment. And that's all there is to the first card. But isn't that fun? Wouldn't you love to receive something like that in the mail for your birthday? So humongous and fun. I think I could have even added more balloons, so I might have to go back and do that. Now for card number 2, I'm pulling out a stamp set from Spellbinders. This came out, I believe, last year. It's called Windy Sky, and I'm going to do a little bit of heat embossing with this beautiful stamp. I have a piece of white cardstock. This is Nina Solar White, 110 pound. And I'll pick up the stamp with the door of the Mini Misty. And then I can put down some anti-static powder. I love this new powder from Rabbit Hole Designs. And then I'm going to stamp this up with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I only show one stamping for the sake of time, but I do stamp it out several times to get a nice dark impression. And here it is. I'll pull out a piece of type paper to catch the clear embossing powder and just pour this over the panel. I needed to make 2 of these panels because I'm going to cut out all of the letters with this panel. But let's melt this. And then I'm going to cut out the thanks letters with these panels. The heat embossed lines really add some fun texture and interest to this card. You could keep it black and white like this, but I decided to come in with a little bit of ink to ink blend over these letters. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so here are the letters all cut out. I'm going to add some dimension to these just with another layer of the letters cut out with white cardstock. This is the 110 pound cardstock again. You could add more layers to make it really thick and dimensional, but I'm just adding one this time. Aren't those fun? There's so many things you can do with these dies. You can make it really simple or as complicated as you'd like. So I'm going to use some picked raspberry. The darkest of the color is going to be at the bottom of this white cardstock, and then I'm going to blend it out into white. I also cut out the U letters with some cardstock that matched really well to this picked raspberry ink. I decided to ink blend at the top of the letters and just fade it out to the bottom to white. And then the ink does dull the lines a little bit, so I'm just going to bring in a dry tissue and wipe the ink off the embossed lines. Otherwise they look really dull. Let's brush off that ink. And now I can start adding them to this panel with a little bit of liquid glue. Again, I'm going to start with the first letter and the last letter, and then I can just put the middle letters in. They all fit perfectly within this 6 1/4 by 3 1/4 inch panel. I am going to back this with some black cardstock. So I'll use more liquid glue for this and just attach it. It's going to have a little bit of a border behind it. And then I'll attach this to a white card base, and the card base will measure 6 1/2 by 3 1/2. And now let's attach the U. And I'm going to have them vertical this time, just in between the N and the K. I'll add a few black gems. And I did add some glitter to the U letters using some clear Spectrum Noir glitter pen. And here is a close-up look. I love the hot pink and the white of this card. And now for card number 3. I used a piece of brushed silver cardstock and embossed the die. I used the rubber mat to do this, so it didn't cut through this panel completely. It's so pretty on its own, you could use it on its own like this, but it's a great way to help you know where to place the letters. So I'm going to glue these down flat this time, just using my tweezers and some liquid glue. This time I'm using the end colors of the rainbow, some blues and some purples. So I used a dark blue and a light blue, and then a dark purple and a light purple, and then I'll just repeat that. I really love the look of this brushed silver cardstock behind these letters. It gave it a nice, almost fancy touch to it. And then I cut out the yay and the exclamation mark with some mirror silver cardstock from Spellbinders. So here this is all done. Isn't that pretty? Just catches the light. I love it. I decided to cut out the yay letters with some black foam as well to add some dimension to these letters. I'm just putting down little dots of glue, and then I kept the letters in their negative space, and this just helps to glue these down easier. I'll do it with all of the letters as well as the exclamation mark. And having a nice pair of tweezers really helps in this process. And now for the second Y. I'm trying to stay within the line so it doesn't get stuck to the negative space of this fun foam. Spellbinders has recently come out with their own version of fun foam, and I will link to that in the description box below. I'll link to all of the supplies that I used to create these cards. And I'm just using a little pickup stick for these last 2 pieces. I'm going to put an acrylic block on this and allow it to dry for about 15 minutes. Make sure you allow it to dry. Then it's really easy to pull these out of the negative space. And you can see that it kind of outlines them in black and makes them very easy to read on the front of this card. I'll glue these down at the bottom right of this card next. So my congrat letters are all flat. I didn't pop them up this time, and it makes gluing down these smaller letters very easy. Let's add this to a 6 1/4 by 3 1/4 inch white card base. I also added some purple gems around the yay. And that's all there is to card number 3. And here is a close-up look. They also have a Hello You color block die set that I want to get my hands on. But I'll link to the video I did a few months ago using some of these fabulous dies. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you were inspired, and I hope you have a wonderful crafty day, my friends. Take care. Bye.